3 days of hiding had taught Leo Frost that the purple rocks made better shelter than the blue ones. The purple ones stayed cool even when the twin suns blazed overhead, and their cracks went deep enough to hide an 8-year-old boy and his best friend. Scraps lay across Leo's lap, the honey badger's gray and black fur warm against his legs. Every few minutes those dark eyes would scan the horizon, watching for danger that Leo's human senses might miss. Leo pressed his back against the cave wall and tried not to think about his mother. Ambassador Rita Frost had been right beside him when the transport ship made its emergency landing. Then the hull breach happened, and smoke filled everything and people were shouting to evacuate. Leo ran the wrong direction. By the time he realized his mistake, the ship was already lifting off for emergency repairs, and he was alone on Draven 7 with nothing but his emergency pack and scraps. The honey badger shifted position and made a low rumbling sound. Not quite a growl, but close. Leo had learned that sound meant something was moving in the distance. He carefully peeked around the rock formation and felt his stomach drop. Soldiers. Big ones. Their armor gleamed dark red in the sunlight, and they moved in formation like they knew exactly what they were hunting. Harvoc troops. Leo had seen them during his mother's diplomatic meetings. The reptilian species stood over 7 feet tall, with scales that could deflect small arms fire and claws that could tear through metal. They ruled this sector of space through military might, and they did not like humans very much. His mother had spent months negotiating trade agreements with their government, trying to build peaceful relations. Leo doubted these soldiers cared about peace treaties. He pulled deeper into the cave, clutching Scraps close. The honey badger tolerated the tight hug for exactly 3 seconds before squirming free and padding toward the cave entrance. Leo grabbed for him and missed. Scraps planted himself at the opening. That flat face pointed toward the approaching soldiers, and absolutely refused to move when Leo tried to pull him back. The emergency rations in Leo's pack were down to 2 bars. His water purifier still worked, but the local streams tasted like metal no matter how many times he filtered them. Scraps had been catching the local wildlife, small rat-like creatures that squeaked and tried to bite. The honey badger caught them anyway, killed them with brutal efficiency and dragged them back to share. Leo had been too hungry to refuse after the first day. Now those hunting skills might not be enough. Leo counted at least 8 Harvoc soldiers spreading out across the rocky terrain. They carried weapons that hummed with energy, the kind that could punch through the cave walls if they wanted. Their leader, marked by extra insignia on his armor, pointed directly at Leo's hiding spot and barked orders in their harsh language. Leo understood enough Harvoc to know they had found his tracks. 3 days of careful hiding, undone by one careless walk to the stream that morning. He had gotten comfortable. Stupid. His mother always said being comfortable in dangerous places was how people got hurt. The soldiers moved closer. 50 yards, 40. Scraps lowered his head and that rumbling sound got deeper. Leo had only seen Scraps truly angry once, when a neighbor's dog tried to attack Leo at a park back on Earth. The dog outweighed the honey badger by 60 pounds. It ran away bleeding from a dozen wounds while Scraps barely had a scratch. These soldiers were much bigger than that dog. Please don't, Leo whispered, knowing Scraps wouldn't understand or listen. Honey badgers were famous for 2 things: not caring about danger and never backing down from a fight. His mother had approved Scraps as a companion animal because honey badgers were protective and loyal. She probably had not imagined they would end up in a situation like this. 30 yards. The Harvoc leader, the one the others called Grend, raised one clawed hand and signaled a halt. He activated a communicator on his wrist and spoke rapidly. Leo caught fragments about a human child, about opportunity, about leverage. His chest went tight. They were not here to rescue him. They were here to capture him. Gren's voice changed, became louder, directed at the cave. The translation device in Leo's pack automatically converted the words, "small human." "Come out. We will not harm you if you cooperate. You are lost. We will return you to your people." The lies were so obvious that Leo almost laughed. Almost. Fear kept the sound locked in his throat. Scraps made a different noise now, high-pitched and sharp. Leo had never heard that sound from him before. It raised the hair on the back of his neck. "We know you are in there, soft-skinned child. Come out or we will come in. You have 10 seconds to comply." Leo looked at Scraps. The honey badger looked back at him with those intelligent dark eyes. Some people thought animals could not understand complex situations. Those people had never bonded with an Earth predator. Scraps knew exactly what was happening. He knew those soldiers meant harm, and he was absolutely not going to let them hurt Leo. Scraps, no, Leo said quietly. There's too many, please. The honey badger turned back to face the cave entrance. His muscles bunched under that loose skin, ready to spring, ready to fight. Time is up, human. We are coming in. The first soldier entered the ravine leading to Leo's cave. Then another. Then 4 more, weapons raised, moving in tactical formation. They looked confident. They looked like this would be easy. Gren stayed back, supervising, already talking on his communicator about a successful capture. Leo pressed himself against the back wall. Scraps took 3 steps forward and planted himself in the middle of the cave entrance. 25 pounds of honey badger against hundreds of pounds of armored soldiers. The math was impossible. The lead soldier laughed, a hissing sound through his helmet. He said something in Harvoc that made the others chuckle. Leo did not need a translation to understand mockery. The soldier reached down toward Leo with one massive clawed hand. His mistake was treating Scraps like he was not there. His second mistake was thinking a small animal from Earth would behave like the domesticated creatures from other worlds. Scraps launched himself at the soldier's exposed neck joint, where armor plates met. The honey badger's jaws locked onto scaled flesh with enough force to crush bone. The soldier's laugh turned into a scream that echoed off the cave walls. And just like that, everything went wrong. Blood changed everything. The Harvoc soldier stumbled backward with Scraps still attached to his neck, clawing at the honey badger with both hands. Those claws could tear metal. They barely made Scraps flinch. The loose skin that made honey badgers look pudgy was actually armor. When the soldier grabbed fur and skin, Scraps just twisted inside it and bit deeper. Blue-green blood sprayed across the rocks. Leo had never seen alien blood before. It looked wrong, like old copper pipes. The smell was worse, sharp and bitter like burnt metal. The wounded soldier crashed into his squad mates, sending them stumbling. Their formation broke apart as they tried to help their comrade without getting bitten themselves. Gren shouted orders from outside the ravine. His voice carried authority and anger in equal measure. The soldiers tried to regroup, raising their weapons toward Scraps. Energy bolts lit up the cave, bright purple flashes that left scorch marks on stone. Scraps released the first soldier and dropped to the ground, already moving before the bolts reached him. The shots hit rock, hit armor, hit everything except the honey badger who moved like smoke. Another soldier took aim, tracking Scraps with his weapon. The honey badger changed direction mid-leap, something that should have been impossible. He hit the soldier's wrist joint where the armor was flexible. Bone snapped with sounds like breaking wood. The weapon clattered to the ground and the soldier followed it, cradling his ruined arm. Leo had stopped breathing. His lungs burned, but he could not remember how to make them work. This was not like the park incident back home. That had been over in seconds. This was a battle, and Scraps was fighting like he was born for it. Maybe he was. Earth had shaped honey badgers over millions of years to fight predators 10 times their size. These soldiers were bigger than any predator from Earth, but that did not matter to an animal who once fought lions. The third soldier tried something different. He pulled a blade from his belt, 3 feet of curved metal that glowed with energy. He slashed at Scraps, fast strikes that would have cut a normal animal in half. Scraps went low under the blade and latched onto the soldier's ankle. The armor joint there was thinner for mobility. That was a mistake. The soldier went down hard and Scraps climbed him like a mountain, heading for softer targets higher up. Gren's voice changed pitch, going from angry to alarmed. He barked new orders. The remaining 5 soldiers stopped advancing and started backing up. Leo saw the shift in their body language. They had come here expecting an easy capture. Now they were fighting for their lives against something they did not understand. Scraps released the third soldier and stood in the cave entrance, outlined by the twin suns behind him. His gray and black fur was matted with blue-green blood. His sides heaved with effort. One of his ears was torn, probably from a glancing energy bolt. He should have been scared or hurt or ready to run. Instead, he advanced on the retreating soldiers, making that high-pitched shrieking sound again. The fourth soldier panicked and fired wildly. Bolts went everywhere, hitting the cave ceiling and sending rock fragments raining down. One bolt clipped Scraps across the shoulder, burning through fur and skin. The honey badger barely slowed. He charged the shooter and went for the eyes because honey badgers always went for the eyes when they wanted to end a fight quickly. The soldier screamed and clawed at his helmet. Scraps had found a gap in the visor seal. Blood and worse things leaked out. The soldier dropped his weapon and ran, crashing into his squad mates as he fled blindly down the ravine. The 5th and 6th soldiers looked at each other, then at Scraps, then turned and ran too. Not a tactical retreat, just running. That left 2 soldiers and Grend. The squad leader finally entered the ravine himself, weapon raised, his body language radiating fury and disbelief. He looked at his dead and wounded troops scattered across the rocks. He looked at the small animal standing in the cave entrance. Leo could not read Harvoc expressions well, but he understood confusion when he saw it. Grend spoke into his communicator, rapid-fire words Leo could not translate. He was calling for backup. More soldiers would come, many more. Leo's brief hope that maybe Scraps had won died in his chest. You could not fight an army no matter how brave or fierce you were. Scraps did not seem to know that. He took another step toward Grend and the 2 remaining soldiers. The honey badger was breathing hard now, and Leo could see blood on his back leg. Not blue-green Harvoc blood. Red human-style blood because Earth and its creatures all bled the same color. Scraps was hurt, maybe badly, but he would keep fighting until he could not move anymore. That was what honey badgers did. One of the remaining soldiers raised his weapon. Grend slapped it down and snarled something harsh. The translation came through Leo's pack. "Alive, you fool. The beast is one thing, but we need the child unharmed." So they still wanted to capture him. That was almost worse than wanting to kill him. Leo had heard stories about what the Harvoc did to prisoners, especially prisoners they could use as leverage. His mother had worked so hard to build peaceful relationships with them. This incident would destroy all of that. Wars had started over less. Scraps backed up slowly, returning to Leo's position. The honey badger kept his eyes on the soldiers, never turning away, never showing vulnerability. When he reached Leo's feet, he sat down and began licking his wounds. The casual grooming while facing armed enemies seemed insane. Then Leo understood. Scraps was resting, preparing for the next attack, because there would definitely be a next attack. Grend pulled back to the ravine entrance and spoke into his communicator for a long time. Leo caught words like demon beast and impossible, and more units needed. The squad leader kept staring at Scraps with something that might have been fear or respect or both. Hard to tell with Harvoc. 20 minutes passed. Leo used his emergency medical kit to clean Scraps' wounds as best he could. The honey badger tolerated the treatment with typical patience, which meant he tried to bite Leo twice before accepting that the medicine stung but helped. The gash on his back leg was deep but not critical. The shoulder burn looked worse than it was. Honey badgers had thick skin and heavy muscle that protected vital areas. Evolution had designed them to take damage and keep fighting. Leo heard engines in the distance. Big ones, transport vehicles maybe, carrying reinforcements. His hand shook as he put away the medical supplies. Scraps had fought off 8 soldiers. How many would come next? 20, 50? Eventually numbers would win. They always did. Scraps finished grooming and stood up. He looked at Leo with those dark, intelligent eyes, and Leo knew what the look meant. It meant, I will protect you no matter what. It meant, I will fight them all if I have to. It meant, you are my human and nothing will hurt you while I still breathe. Leo wrapped his arms around Scraps and held on tight, ignoring the blood and the smell and the fact that this might be the last quiet moment they had. The honey badger tolerated the hug for 5 full seconds this time, before pulling away and returning to his guard position. The sound of engines got louder, much louder, multiple vehicles converging on their position. Grend's backup was here, and this time they would not underestimate what they faced. This time they would come prepared for war. Leo pulled his emergency pack closer and checked the contents one more time. 2 ration bars, half a bottle of filtered water, a basic first aid kit mostly used up now, a translation device, a signal beacon that had not worked for 3 days, probably jammed by Harvoc military tech. Nothing useful for fighting off an army. The engines stopped. Doors opened with metallic clangs. Heavy footsteps approached, many of them marching in unison. Professional soldiers who knew their job. Grend's voice called out orders, and this time Leo understood every word through the translator. Circle formation. Heavy weapons. Shields up. Non-lethal force only. We take the human alive. Scraps lowered his head and began to growl. 20 soldiers marched into the ravine wearing armor twice as thick as the first squad. Their weapons were bigger too, mounted on their arms like cannons. They carried shields that hummed with energy fields overlapping to create a moving wall. These were not regular troops. These were specialists trained to handle dangerous situations. Squad Commander Draxus led them, his armor decorated with battle marks that told stories of dozens of campaigns. He surveyed the carnage from the first engagement with cold professional interest. His troops spread out in practiced formation, creating interlocking fields of fire that covered every angle. They moved like a machine, each part supporting the others. Leo recognized the trap immediately. They were not trying to capture him yet. They were setting up a kill box, a zone where nothing could survive if they decided lethal force was necessary. The message was clear: surrender or face overwhelming firepower. Scraps would die, and probably Leo too if he resisted. Draxus spoke through external speakers, his voice amplified and cold. Human child. Your animal has killed 4 of our soldiers and injured 5 more. Under Harvoc military law, this justifies immediate lethal response. However, my orders are to retrieve you unharmed. Send out the animal alone and you will not be hurt. The lie was almost insulting. Leo had heard his mother negotiate with Harvoc officials enough times to know they respected strength, but had flexible definitions of promises made to weaker species. If Leo surrendered Scraps, they would both end up prisoners or dead. At least together they had a chance, no matter how small. No, Leo shouted back, surprised at how steady his voice sounded. Leave us alone. We did not come here to fight. You started this. Draxus tilted his head, a very human gesture that looked odd on a Harvoc. You are a child alone on a hostile world. We are offering rescue. Your mother, Ambassador Frost, has been looking for you. Do you not wish to see her again? That hurt worse than any threat. Leo did want to see his mother. He wanted it so badly his chest ached. But he knew tactics when he heard them. They were using his emotions as a weapon. His mother had taught him about that too, during long diplomatic flights when she explained how negotiations really worked. If you wanted to help, you would have called for her instead of sending soldiers, Leo said. You want to use me? I am not stupid. Something like approval flickered in Draxus's body language. No, you are not stupid. That makes this more difficult. He gestured and his troops began advancing, shields raised, weapons charged. Final warning, human child. Surrender now. Scraps made a sound Leo had never heard before, lower than a growl, deeper than a rumble. It resonated in Leo's chest like a bass drum. Every Harvoc soldier hesitated at that sound. Even Draxus paused. Whatever instincts their species possessed, whatever prey responses evolution had coded into their genes, something recognized that sound as dangerous. The advance continued anyway. Professional soldiers knew how to ignore fear. They reached the cave entrance and Scraps launched himself at the shield wall with suicidal courage. Energy fields crackled where he hit them, throwing him back. He landed hard, scrambled to his feet, and attacked again, and again. Each impact left him more dazed but no less determined. Leo felt tears burning his eyes. Scraps could not win this. The shields were too strong, the soldiers too many, the weapons too powerful. Watching his best friend throw himself at impossible odds was breaking something inside Leo's chest. He had to do something. Anything, even if it was stupid. Then he noticed the cave walls. 3 days of hiding here, he had explored every corner during long, boring hours. The crystal formations went deep, connecting to other chambers through narrow passages. Too narrow for adult Harvoc in full armor. Maybe narrow enough for a small human boy and a medium-sized animal. Leo grabbed his pack and whistled the recall command he had taught Scraps during training. The honey badger ignored it, too focused on the enemies in front of him. Leo whistled again, sharper, with the hand signal attached. Scraps finally glanced back, and Leo pointed at the narrow gap in the back wall that he had discovered on day 2. Scraps understood. He broke off the attack and sprinted to Leo's position. The Harvoc troops, suddenly facing no resistance, surged forward into the cave. That was exactly what Leo wanted. He squeezed into the gap, pulling Scraps behind him, just as energy bolts filled the space where they had been standing. The crystal passage was barely 2 feet wide and pitch black. Leo turned on his pack's emergency light and crawled forward as fast as he could. Behind him, he heard Draxus shouting orders. The commander had realized too late that the cave had a back exit. Soldiers would be running around to cut them off. The passage opened into a larger chamber filled with crystal formations that glowed faintly in the dark. Leo ran across it toward another opening on the far side. Scraps kept pace beside him, limping slightly but keeping up. They emerged into a different ravine, one that opened onto the wider rocky plain, and found 5 Harvoc soldiers already waiting. Draxus had anticipated the escape route and positioned troops to intercept. Leo skidded to a halt, trapped between the soldiers ahead and the squad behind. They had walked right into another trap. The closest soldier reached for Leo. Scraps hit him low and hard, claws and teeth finding gaps in armor joints. But this time the soldier was ready. He had seen what happened to the first squad. His partner moved in with a shock stick, a weapon designed to stun without killing. Scraps took the hit and went down, muscles spasming. No! Leo threw himself at the soldier with the shock stick, knowing it was useless, knowing he was just a small human child against an armored giant. His fists bounced off armor plating without effect. The soldier pushed him away casually, almost gently, focusing on subduing Scraps. Then something exploded nearby. Not an energy weapon, something bigger. The Harvoc soldier stumbled, and Leo saw smoke rising from the ravine entrance behind them. Another explosion, closer this time. The soldiers started shouting into their communicators, confused and alarmed. A new voice cut through the chaos, transmitted on an open frequency so everyone could hear. This is Owen Blake, Security Chief for Ambassador Rita Frost. The human child is under diplomatic protection. Cease your actions immediately or face consequences. Leo's heart jumped. Owen was his mother's head bodyguard, a former Earth military officer who looked like he was built from spare tank parts. If Owen was here, his mother was nearby. They had found him. 3 days of hiding and running, and his mother had finally found him. The Harvoc troops pulled back into defensive positions. Draxus's voice came through on the same frequency, calm and measured. Security Chief Blake, you are in Harvoc-controlled territory. The child entered our space illegally. We are within our rights to detain him. The child is 8 years old and survived a transport malfunction. He is not an invader. Release him immediately. Come and take him, human. If you dare. More explosions, closer now. Energy weapons fire answered them. A full firefight was developing on the far side of the ravine. Leo could hear Owen's voice shouting orders to someone, coordinating an assault, but the Harvoc troops around Leo and Scraps were not leaving. They formed a tight perimeter, using them as hostages to prevent the human security team from attacking directly. Scraps stirred, shaking off the shock stick's effects faster than should have been possible. Honey badgers had remarkable recovery abilities, another gift from evolution. He tried to stand and managed it on the 3rd attempt, swaying but upright, still ready to fight despite everything. One of the Harvoc soldiers said something that Leo's translator caught. What is that creature? Why will it not stay down? His partner responded with what might have been fear or respect. It fights like Harvoc, like honor-bound warrior, but it is so small. Draxus approached, weapon lowered but ready. He studied Scraps with an expression Leo could not read. Your animal has earned respect, human child. I have fought many battles across many worlds. I have never seen such ferocity in such a small form. What species is this? Honey badger, Leo said quietly. From Earth, Earth. Draxus repeated the word slowly. Your home world. I have read the reports. They say it is a Class 9 death world. Harsh gravity. Dangerous fauna. Extreme environments. They say humans are weak but come from strong places. I am beginning to understand what that means. Before Leo could respond, the ground shook. Not an explosion this time. Something else. Something that made the Harvoc soldiers stop talking and look at the ground beneath their feet with sudden alarm. The shaking got stronger. Crystal formations around them began to crack and fall. Draxus's eyes widened. He barked orders in Harvoc and his troops began backing away from the ravine walls. The commander grabbed his communicator and shouted, All units pull back. We have disturbed a nest. Repeat, we have disturbed a worm nest. The ground erupted. A massive creature burst through the rocky surface, all teeth and armored plating. 40 feet of apex predator that made the Harvoc look like toys. Its roar shook the air so hard that Leo felt it in his bones. A Draven worm, the planet's native super predator. They hunted by feeling vibrations in the ground, and 3 days of fighting had rung the dinner bell. The Harvoc soldiers opened fire immediately. Energy bolts splashed across the worm's armored hide and did basically nothing. The creature struck with horrifying speed. grabbing a soldier in jaws designed to crush ore deposits and biting down. Armor crumpled like paper. Draxus was shouting into his communicator, "Forget the human. Everyone pull back to the transports. Move, move!" The ground shook again. Another worm surfaced. Then a third. Leo grabbed scraps and ran. Chaos had a sound, Leo discovered. It sounded like screaming soldiers and roaring monsters and rock shattering under massive weight. It smelled like blood and burnt ozone and the sulfur stink of disturbed earth. It felt like running with lungs that burned and legs that wanted to collapse in pure terror, pushing him forward. Anyway, the first Y-arm turned away from the Harvoc soldiers and focused on Leo. Maybe because he was smaller and looked like easier prey. Maybe because he was running, and that triggered hunting instincts. Either way, the creature's massive head swung toward him and those jaws opened wide enough to swallow him whole. Scraps planted himself between Leo and the worm. The size difference was absurd. The honey badger looked like a toy facing a nightmare. That did not stop him from charging at the monster with the same fearless aggression he had shown the Harvoc soldiers. He launched himself at the worm's face, aiming for its eyes. The worm thrashed, trying to dislodge the small creature, tearing into its sensitive tissues. Scraps held on with all four claws in his teeth, ripping and tearing. Blue blood mixed with the blue-green Harvoc blood already matting his fur. The worm's tail whipped around, smashing through crystal formations. One piece caught Scraps and sent him flying. Leo watched his best friend hit the ground and not move. Something inside him broke completely. He screamed and threw a rock at the worm, knowing it was useless, not caring. The creature's attention shifted back to him. It advanced slowly now, taking its time with prey that could not escape. Energy bolts streaked past Leo's head. The Harvoc troops had not fled after all. They were firing at the worm, trying to drive it away from Leo. Not because they cared about him, probably. More likely because their orders were to capture him alive, and they followed orders even when faced with monsters. Or maybe because fighting a common enemy created strange alliances. Leo did not care about their reasons. He was just grateful. Draxus's voice cut through the chaos. "Human child. Run toward my position, now." Leo hesitated, looking at Scraps lying motionless on the ground. The choice was impossible. Run and live but abandon his friend, or stay and die together. His mother would tell him to run. Scraps would want him to run. Every logical part of his brain screamed at him to run. He ran to Scraps instead. Leo grabbed the honey badger and tried to lift him. Scraps was small for an earth predator, but still heavy. Maybe 25 pounds of solid muscle and bad attitude. Leo got him halfway up when the worm's head struck like a snake. Jaws closed around empty air where Leo had been standing a second earlier. He fell backward, still holding Scraps, and rolled behind a crystal formation. The worm's head smashed through the crystal, destroying Leo's cover. Draxus and 3 of his soldiers charged the creature from the side, firing at its legs, trying to draw its attention. It worked. The worm spun toward them, roaring loud enough to hurt Leo's ears. One soldier was too slow. The tail caught him and sent him flying into the ravine wall hard enough to leave a crater. Leo used the distraction to drag Scraps toward a cluster of rocks. The honey badger's eyes were closed and blood trickled from his mouth. His chest still rose and fell, but barely. Leo pressed his hands against Scraps's ribs, feeling for broken bones, trying to remember the first aid training his mother had made him take. Everything felt wrong. Too many injuries. Too much damage. "Please wake up," Leo whispered. "Please, Scraps. I need you. Please do not leave me alone here." The honey badger did not respond. Leo felt hot tears running down his face, mixing with the dust and blood already there. This was his fault, all of it. If he had stayed with the transport. If he had been less scared during the evacuation. If he had been braver or smarter or just better, none of this would have happened. Something grabbed Leo from behind. He shouted and tried to fight, but the grip was too strong. A voice spoke directly into his ear. "Kid, stop fighting. I am with your mother." Leo twisted around and saw a human face. Scarred, weathered, middle-aged. Owen Blake looked exactly like his security file photo, which Leo had seen dozens of times during diplomatic missions. The man held a rifle that looked like it belonged in a museum but probably hit harder than any Harvoc weapon. "Scraps," Leo said desperately. "He is hurt. We have to help him." Owen looked at the unconscious honey badger and something flickered across his face. Respect, maybe. That little guy held off 8 Harvoc soldiers? More than 8. "Please, we have to save him." Owen made a decision. He scooped up Scraps with one arm, grabbed Leo with the other and ran toward a defensive position where 2 more human security officers were laying down covering fire. The Harvoc troops and the worms were fully engaged now, creating a 3-way battle that gave Owen the opening he needed. They dove behind an overturned Harvoc transport. Owen set Scraps down carefully and pulled out a medical kit that looked far more advanced than Leo's emergency supplies. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, checking vitals, applying trauma foam to the worst wounds, injecting something that made Scraps' breathing steadier. "Your timing is terrible, kid," Owen said while he worked. "Another 5 minutes and we would have had you out clean. Now we are stuck in the middle of a war zone with angry lizards and angrier worms." "Worms," Leo corrected automatically. "They are called Draven worms, and I am sorry. I did not mean for any of this to happen." Owen glanced at him with something that might have been a smile. "Yeah, well, life rarely goes according to plan. Your mother is going to hug you and then ground you until you are 30. Is she okay?" "Where is she?" "She is coordinating our extraction about 2 miles from here. Could not come herself because ambassadors charging into combat zones causes diplomatic incidents." Owen finished treating Scraps and checked his rifle's charge. "This little warrior going to make it?" Leo looked at Scraps, now breathing steadily, trauma foam covering a dozen wounds. "He always makes it. He is a honey badger." "A what?" Before Leo could explain, one of the worms broke free from the Harvoc soldiers and charged their position. Owen shoved Leo down and opened fire. The rifle made a sound like thunder and kicked out projectiles that actually penetrated the worm's armor. Not deeply, but enough to hurt it. Enough to make it reconsider. The other 2 security officers added their fire. Between the 3 humans and the remaining Harvoc troops, they managed to drive the worm back toward its nest opening. It retreated underground, wounded and angry, but still alive. The other 2 worms followed, apparently deciding this prey fought back too hard to be worth the effort. Sudden silence. Everyone stopped firing. Humans and Harvoc stared at each other across 50 yards of torn-up ground. Both sides exhausted, both sides bleeding, neither side sure if the fight was over or just pausing. Draxus stepped forward slowly, weapon lowered. "Security Chief Blake, it appears we face a common threat." Owen stood up, rifle ready but not aimed. "Appears that way, Commander Draxus. Funny how giant murder worms make everyone friends." "Indeed." Draxus looked at his remaining troops. Out of 20, only 11 were still standing. His armor was cracked and leaking fluid from a dozen places. "Perhaps we should discuss terms of disengagement. Neither of us can afford further losses." "I agree. Here are my terms. We take the kid and his animal, you take your wounded, everyone goes home and pretends this never happened." Draxus's laugh sounded like grinding rocks. "You expect me to return empty-handed after losing 9 soldiers? I expect you to be smart enough to know when to cut your losses. Those worms might come back. You really want to be here when they do?" The Harvoc commander considered this. Leo could see him calculating, weighing pride against pragmatism. Finally, Draxus nodded. "Agreed, but I will file a report. Your ambassador will hear about this incident." "Fair enough. She will probably want to yell at someone anyway." They stood there for another moment, 2 professionals who understood each other despite being from different species. Then Draxus turned and began barking orders to his troops. They gathered their dead and wounded and started moving toward their transports. Owen knelt beside Leo. "Can you walk?" "Yes." "Good. Grab your pet and let us get out of here before something else tries to kill us." Leo carefully picked up Scraps, holding him close. The honey badger's eyes flickered open, unfocused but aware. He made a soft sound, almost a purr, and Leo felt his heart restart. "I thought I lost you," Leo whispered. Scraps responded by trying to bite his nose, which was the most honey badger way possible to say, "I am fine, stop worrying." They moved out, Owen and his team forming a protective square around Leo. Behind them, the Harvoc troops loaded into their transports and lifted off. No one fired a parting shot. The temporary truce held, at least for now. As they walked across the torn landscape, Owen asked, "So what exactly is a honey badger?" Leo looked down at Scraps, who was already trying to wiggle free and walk on his own, despite being held together mostly by trauma foam and stubbornness. "The toughest animal on Earth," Leo said simply. "And my best friend." The temporary camp smelled like military rations and medical supplies. Owen's team had set up in a cluster of rocks 2 miles from the worm nest, far enough to be safe but close enough to respond if the Harvoc tried anything. Leo sat on a folded blanket while a medic checked him over. asking questions about injuries and giving him nutrient bars that tasted like cardboard, but filled his empty stomach. Scraps lay on a thermal pad designed for human use, but working just fine for a honey badger. The combat medic, a woman named Patricia who said she had treated everything from knife wounds to radiation poisoning, kept glancing at Scraps with professional curiosity mixed with disbelief. "The trauma foam is designed for humans," she said while scanning Scraps with a medical device. "It should not work this well on non-human biology. But his wounds are already starting to close. I have seen soldiers take longer to heal from less severe injuries." "He is tough," Leo said, finishing his third nutrient bar. Hunger had caught up with him all at once, along with thirst and exhaustion, and the shakes that came after terror faded. "Honey badgers heal fast, and they do not feel pain the same way other animals do." Patricia shook her head. "Kid, I have been a combat medic for 15 years. I have patched up soldiers from 6 different species. This little guy has broken ribs, plasma burns, internal bruising, and about 20 lacerations that should have him unconscious from shock. Instead, he tried to bite me when I started treatment." "What kind of evolution produces that?" "The Earth kind," Owen said, walking over with a communicator in his hand. "Kid, your mother wants to talk to you. Fair warning, she is going to cry and yell, probably in that order." Leo took the communicator with shaking hands. Before he could speak, his mother's voice came through. "Leo? Leo, baby, is that you?" "Hi, Mom." His voice cracked halfway through. "I am sorry. I am so sorry. I did not mean to get lost. I did not mean for any of this to happen." "Oh, sweetheart." Rita Frost's voice was thick with tears. "I thought I lost you." 3 days, Leo. 3 days of not knowing if you were alive or hurt or scared. I have been searching every minute." "Where were you?" "In a cave system about 5 miles from the landing site. I had Scraps with me, and my emergency pack. I remembered what you taught me about survival." The words tumbled out faster and faster. "But then the Harvoc found me and they wanted to capture me and Scraps fought them and there were so many soldiers and then the worms came and it was so scary, Mom." "I know, baby." "I know, but you are safe now. Owen is bringing you to me. Just a few more hours and I will have you back." Leo wanted to ask about the diplomatic fallout, about what would happen with the Harvoc, about whether he had started a war by accident. But he was 8 and exhausted, and his mother's voice made all those questions seem less important. "Is Dad okay? Did you tell him what happened?" "Your father is on his way from Earth. He will be here in 2 days." Rita paused.
"Leo, Owen told me about Scraps."
"About what he did. Is he all right?" Leo looked at the honey badger, who had opened his eyes and was watching the conversation with typical alertness despite his injuries. "He is hurt but getting better. Mom, he saved my life. Multiple times. He fought so many soldiers. He did not run even when he should have. He is the bravest thing I have ever seen." "Honey badgers usually are." His mother's voice carried a smile now. "When we approved him as your companion animal, the Earth Wildlife Service warned us they were fearless to the point of stupidity. I think they undersold it." Owen made a gesture that meant wrap it up. "Communications this close to Harvoc territory were risky. The Harvoc might be honoring the truce, but they were definitely monitoring transmissions." Leo said goodbye to his mother and handed back the communicator. "She doing okay?" Owen asked. She was crying. "Yeah, parents do that when their kids nearly die." Owen squatted down to Leo's level. "Listen, kid. What you did out there, surviving 3 days alone on a hostile world at your age, that took guts. But what your animal did." He looked at Scraps with something close to reverence. "I have served with Special Forces soldiers who would not charge 8 armed hostiles to protect their squad. That thing did it for you without hesitation. You have got yourself a real warrior there." "He is not a warrior. He is just Scraps. He is my friend. Where I come from, those are not different things." Owen stood up. "We move out in 10 minutes. Stay close to Patricia and do exactly what she says. We have got about 3 hours of hiking through rough terrain, and the Harvoc might change their minds about the truce." The next 3 hours were the longest of Leo's life. Every sound made him jump. Every shadow looked like a Harvoc soldier. Patricia let him carry Scraps in a specially made sling that kept the honey badger stable while allowing Leo to move. Scraps tolerated this with minimal struggling, which showed how hurt he really was. A healthy honey badger would have fought the restraint. They moved through crystal canyons and across rocky plains, always watching for threats. Twice they spotted Harvoc patrols in the distance. Both times the patrols made no move to intercept. Apparently Draxus had meant the truce seriously. Leo was grateful but also confused. Why would the Harvoc commander honor an agreement when he could have just attacked them? Owen explained during a rest break. Warriors respect warriors. Your little buddy there earned something rare from the Harvoc. Respect. Draxus lost soldiers, but he also saw something he never expected. A creature smaller than his forearm taking down trained troops. That changes how you see things, but they hate humans. Everyone says the Harvoc think we are weak. They thought you were weak. Past tense. Now they know humans come from a world that produces animals like that. Owen pointed at Scraps. And if your pets are that dangerous, what does that say about you? Leo had not thought about it that way. He looked at Scraps, remembering every moment of the past 3 days. The honey badger hunting local wildlife to feed them both, standing guard while Leo slept, fighting impossible odds without fear or hesitation, never giving up, never backing down, never running away even when running made sense. That was what Earth evolution produced. Animals so tough they would fight until they physically could not continue. And humans had not just survived alongside those animals, they had made friends with them. Patricia called a halt near a cluster of rocks that offered good visibility. She checked her scanner and frowned. We have got movement ahead. Multiple contacts. Could be Harvoc. Owen readied his rifle and signaled his team to spread out. They waited in tense silence for 5 minutes. Then a familiar voice called out, Owen Blake, if you shoot me, my son will be very upset. Ambassador Frost? Owen lowered his weapon. You were supposed to wait at the extraction point. Rita Frost emerged from behind the rocks with 2 more security officers. She looked like she had been crying and had not slept in days. The moment she saw Leo, she ran to him and pulled him into a hug so tight he could barely breathe. Never do that again, she whispered fiercely. Never ever do that again. Do you understand me? Yes, Mom. Leo hugged her back just as tightly. I promise. Rita held him for a long moment before pulling back to look him over. Her diplomat composure cracked when she saw the bruises and cuts and dirt covering her son. Then she noticed Scraps in the sling and her expression shifted to something Leo had rarely seen. Pure fury at whatever had hurt her child and his companion. Owen, report. What happened out there? Owen gave a concise tactical summary, leaving out nothing. The Harvoc ambush, the firefights, the worm attack, the temporary truce. Rita listened with the same focused intensity she used during diplomatic negotiations, asking questions, absorbing information, planning her next moves. When Owen finished, she turned to Leo. Baby, I need you to tell me everything from your perspective. Start from when you left the transport. Leo told his story. His mother listened without interrupting, though her grip on his hand tightened during the scary parts. When he described Scraps fighting the first Harvoc squad, Rita looked at the honey badger with new understanding. He really took on 8 soldiers alone, she asked. He did not want to, but they were going to hurt me. So he fought them. Rita reached out slowly and gently scratched Scraps behind his ears. The honey badger tolerated this for approximately 2 seconds before trying to bite her, which made Leo laugh despite everything. Even hurt and exhausted, Scraps was still himself. I owe this animal my son's life, Rita said quietly. Whatever medical treatment he needs, whatever care, whatever it costs, he gets it. Understood? Already arranged, Patricia said. I contacted a veterinary specialist who works with Earth fauna. She is meeting us at the extraction point with a full medical suite. The group moved out together, humans forming a protective circle around Leo and his mother. They walked through alien landscape under twin suns, and for the first time in 3 days, Leo felt safe. His mother was here. Owen's team surrounded them. Scraps was hurt but alive and already showing signs of recovery. As they crested a ridge, Leo saw the extraction point ahead. 3 human shuttles waited, engines warm, ready for immediate departure. Medical personnel moved around them, setting up equipment. His mother's full security detail stood watch, weapons ready. They made it. After everything, they actually made it. Scraps stirred in his sling and opened both eyes, focusing on Leo with that intelligent gaze. The honey badger made a soft sound, almost content. Leo scratched his head gently, careful of the injuries. We are going home, buddy, Leo whispered. We made it. 2 weeks after Draven 7, Leo sat in a medical observation room aboard the human diplomatic vessel Messenger. watching Scraps terrorize a veterinary assistant who was just trying to change bandages. The honey badger had recovered faster than anyone predicted, which the specialist said was both typical for his species and medically fascinating. His wounds had healed cleanly. His energy had returned. His attitude had never left. "He is being difficult on purpose," Dr. Sarah Kim said, watching through the observation window with barely concealed amusement. The veterinary specialist had treated Earth fauna for 20 years and claimed nothing surprised her anymore. Scraps had surprised her. Honey badgers are intelligent enough to know when they are being annoying. "He knows that assistant is new and nervous. Should I help?" Leo asked. "No, Terry needs to learn. You cannot work with Earth predators if a 25-pound bundle of attitude intimidates you." Dr. Kim glanced at Leo. "How are you doing? Nightmares getting better?" Leo shrugged. He had been having dreams about Harvoc soldiers and worms every night since the rescue. His mother said it was normal after trauma. The ship's counselor said the same thing. Leo just wished normal did not involve waking up scared at 3 in the morning. "A little better. Scraps helps. He sleeps in my room now." "Of course he does. Honey badgers are incredibly protective of their bonded humans, especially after threatening situations. He probably will not let you out of his sight for weeks." Dr. Kim pulled up a file on her tablet. "I have been reviewing the combat footage from Draven 7. Owen's team had helmet cameras. Do you want to see it?" "No." Leo had seen enough. He remembered every moment with perfect clarity. Watching it again would not help. "Fair enough." Dr. Kim closed the file. "The Galactic Assembly has been asking about Scraps, specifically about his species and whether all honey badgers are like him." "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That honey badgers are one of the toughest small predators Earth ever produced. That they have few natural predators because most predators learn quickly that attacking them is not worth the effort. That they are fearless to the point of apparent stupidity, but actually quite intelligent and calculating." Dr. Kim smiled. "I also mentioned that humans have been living alongside them for thousands of years. Some cultures consider them sacred because of their courage." Through the window, Scraps had stopped fighting and was now allowing the assistant to finish the bandage change. The honey badger had made his point and saw no reason to continue being difficult. Terry looked relieved and slightly traumatized. "Your mother asked me to prepare a full briefing on Earth fauna for the assembly," Dr. Kim continued. "They want to understand what else humans share their world with." "I think Scraps scared them." "Good," Leo said quietly. "Maybe they will stop thinking humans are weak." Dr. Kim gave him a thoughtful look. "Is that what you think happened? That Scraps proved humans are strong?" Leo considered the question carefully. "I think Scraps proved we are different. Most species in the galaxy do not live with predators. They evolved past that, or killed their predators or left their homeworlds. But humans still live with lions and bears and sharks and everything else that could kill us. We made friends with wolves and they became dogs. We made friends with dangerous animals because we wanted to, not because we had to. That is a very mature observation for an 8-year-old. My mom explains things. She says understanding why people do things is how you make peace with them." "Smart woman, your mother." Dr. Kim stood up. "Come on. Let us rescue Terry from your demon badger before he quits." They entered the medical room together. Scraps immediately perked up at seeing Leo, making happy chirping sounds that seemed completely at odds with the creature who had torn through Harvoc soldiers. Leo picked him up carefully, mindful of healing wounds, and Scraps settled into his arms with contentment. Terry, the assistant, looked grateful. "He is very strong for his size. That is kind of his whole species," Leo said. "Sorry he was mean to you." "It is fine. I have worked with Earth cats before. This was similar, but with more teeth and less mercy." Leo carried Scraps back to his quarters, Dr. Kim walking beside them. The ship was quiet during rest cycle, most crew either sleeping or working in essential areas. They passed a conference room where Leo's mother was in a meeting with her senior staff. Rita saw them through the window and waved, smiling despite obvious exhaustion. "Your mother has been in meetings for 6 hours straight," Dr. Kim said. "The Harvoc sent an official complaint about the Draven 7 incident. Then they sent a second message that was not a complaint." "What was it?" "An invitation. They want to meet with her formally to discuss what they call the human warrior tradition. Apparently, General Scorn filed a report that was less about your mother's son trespassing and more about Earth biology being terrifying. The Harvoc High Command wants to know more." Leo felt a flutter of anxiety. "Are we in trouble?" "The opposite, actually. The Harvoc respect strength. You and Scraps showed them strength they did not expect. Now they want to understand it. Dr. Kim paused at Leo's door. You might have accidentally started a friendship instead of a war. That night, Leo lay in his bed with Scraps curled up beside him, both of them comfortable for the first time in weeks. The honey badger snored softly, already deep asleep. Leo stared at the ceiling and thought about everything that had happened. He had been lost and scared. Scraps had protected him. Soldiers had tried to capture them. They fought back. The worms attacked. Everyone survived. And now the Harvoc wanted to talk about honor and warriors and earth animals. It seemed impossible. But so did a 25-pound honey badger fighting off trained soldiers, and that had definitely happened. Leo's door chimed. His mother entered quietly, checking to see if he was awake. When she saw his open eyes, she sat on the edge of his bed. "Cannot sleep?" she asked. "Thinking too much." Rita smiled and brushed hair off his forehead. "I do that too, especially lately. Dr. Kim said the Harvoc want to meet with you." "They do." General Scorn himself requested the meeting. He wants to understand what he faced on Draven 7. Rita looked at Scraps, still sleeping peacefully. He called Scraps a warrior of honor in his report. That is one of the highest compliments in Harvoc culture. Scraps is not a warrior. He is just a honey badger doing honey badger things. Maybe that is the same thing. Maybe being willing to fight impossible odds to protect what you love is what warriors really are. Rita squeezed Leo's hand. "You were very brave out there, baby. I know you were scared, but you kept thinking, kept surviving, kept taking care of your friend. That took real courage. I did not feel brave. I felt terrified. Bravery is not about not being scared. It is about doing what needs to be done even when you are scared. You did that, and Scraps did that for you." Rita stood up. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow we reach the assembly station. There are going to be a lot of people who want to meet the boy and the honey badger who changed how the galaxy sees humanity." She kissed his forehead and left, dimming the lights on her way out. Leo lay in the darkness, listening to Scraps snore, and thought about the future. The galaxy had thought humans were weak, soft, good for talking, but not much else. One small animal from Earth had challenged that assumption. Not through technology or weapons or even human action, just by being what evolution had made him, fearless, loyal, and absolutely unwilling to back down. What would happen when the galaxy learned about all the other Earth animals? When they discovered that honey badgers were not even close to the most dangerous things humans lived with? When they realized humans had domesticated wolves and kept great cats as companions and swam with sharks for fun? Leo fell asleep with that thought, a small smile on his face. 3 months later, Leo and his mother attended a formal ceremony at the Galactic Assembly Hall. Representatives from 40 species filled the chamber, including a Harvoc delegation led by General Scorn himself. The general had recovered from his injuries on Draven 7, and now wore his battle scars with pride. The ceremony was about many things: new trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, formal recognition of humanity's diplomatic status. But everyone really wanted to see one thing. Scraps sat on a cushion beside Leo's chair, wearing a small harness with medals attached. One was from the Earth Wildlife Service, recognizing exceptional service by a companion animal. The other was Harvoc, a warrior's mark that had never been given to a non-Harvoc before. The honey badger tolerated the attention with typical indifference. He cleaned his paws and occasionally looked around the chamber with mild interest. When cameras focused on him, he yawned. When ambassadors pointed, he ignored them. He was in all ways completely unimpressed by galactic politics. General Scorn approached during a break in formal proceedings. He had requested permission to speak with Leo directly, which was unusual but allowed. The general knelt to bring himself closer to Leo's height, a gesture of respect. "Young Leo Frost," Scorn said in careful English, "I have thought much about our encounter on Draven 7. I have fought for many years. I have won many battles, but I have never been defeated by one so small until I met your companion. Scraps was not trying to defeat you," Leo said politely. "He was trying to protect me." "Yes, that is what makes it remarkable." Scorn looked at Scraps with something close to reverence. "In Harvoc culture, we value strength and honor above all things. We thought we understood what those words meant. Your animal taught us we did not. Strength is not only size. Honor is not only winning. Sometimes strength is fighting when you cannot win. Honor is protecting what you love even when it costs everything. The general stood and addressed the full assembly, his voice carrying to every corner. I came here to file complaints against humanity for the death of my soldiers. Instead, I filed reports of respect. This small creature from Earth showed more honor than warriors 3 times his size. If this is what humanity shares their world with, if this is the kind of courage their animals possess, then we have badly misunderstood them. He turned back to Leo. You have my respect, young human. And your warrior companion has my gratitude for teaching me humility. Scorn bowed, a formal Harvoc gesture rarely given to other species, and returned to his delegation. Rita leaned over to Leo and whispered, I think you just changed the course of human-Harvoc relations. Scraps did it, Leo whispered back. I just held on. Sometimes that is enough. The ceremony continued. Speeches were made. Treaties were signed. New eras of cooperation were declared. Through it all, Scraps dozed peacefully, completely unbothered by his role in galactic history. That evening, back in their quarters, Leo sat with Scraps and thought about everything. The assembly wanted his mother to arrange tours of Earth, showing representatives what other animals humans lived with. There was talk of cultural exchange programs focused on humanity's relationship with dangerous wildlife. Some species were fascinated. Others were terrified. Most were both. Dr. Kim had started a lecture series about Earth fauna. Her first talk, Honey Badgers and Other Reasons to Respect Earth, had been attended by over 300 species representatives. The recording had been downloaded millions of times across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to understand how humans could be so peaceful when they came from such a dangerous world. The answer was simple but hard to explain. Humans had learned to see beauty in danger, friendship in ferocity, and family in creatures that could easily kill them. Rita entered the room carrying a data pad. You have mail. From Owen. Leo took the pad and read the message. Owen had returned to Earth and was sending updates about the zoo partnership program. Apparently, several alien species wanted to visit Earth zoos to see the animals in person. Owen thought this was hilarious and possibly dangerous depending on whether anyone tried to pet the lions. There is more news, Rita said, sitting beside him. The Galactic Assembly is creating a new classification for Earth. They are calling it a Category 10 Death World, with domesticated apex predators. It is the first time they have used that designation. What does that mean? It means they finally understand that humanity is not weak, despite coming from a dangerous world. We are strong because of it. Because we survived by making allies out of monsters, and those allies made us better. Scraps chose that moment to wake up, stretch, and try to steal Leo's dinner from the table. Leo grabbed him gently and moved the plate out of reach, which Scraps accepted with philosophical calm. The honey badger settled into Leo's lap and went back to sleep. He really is something special, Rita said softly. He is just Scraps. He has always been this way. Leo scratched behind the honey badger's ears. Maybe that is what makes Earth animals special. They do not try to be brave or strong. They just are, and somehow we figured out how to be friends with them. Rita kissed the top of his head. Get some sleep, baby. Tomorrow we start planning the Earth tour. The galaxy wants to meet our bears and sharks and eagles and everything else we call neighbors. Can Scraps come? Scraps goes wherever you go. That appears to be non-negotiable. Leo smiled and held his best friend close. The galaxy had learned an important lesson on Draven 7. Earth was dangerous. Earth animals were terrifying, and humans had somehow turned all that danger into friendship, all that terror into loyalty, all that strength into love. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. One small honey badger had made sure of that.